I want to welcome everyone because I do have some great news about the changes that have happened with the grade Passback from Access into Power School, and I kind of want to explain what you might be seeing in your districts depending on how you schedule kids into the Access classes locally as those filler classes that you might have them in for just location purposes on your students. So we know the pain that you had last year with access classes, that when the grades pushed back, you were not able to alter or edit any of those grades or anything in that record really, because it would overwrite it each night and make changes to it if you tried to adjust anything. That is part of the cross LEA passback. That overwrite is still there, but what we've had them do this year is unlock the overwrite from certain fields so that you can now make changes and those changes stick. So, unlike last year where you had to pull all of those records out or manually re enter all those records in a separate time, which means they showed twice on transcripts and everything else, none of that is going to have to happen this year. So, much, much better. Y'all are going to like this, I promise. So, I want to show you first. Let's go from top to bottom. Your grades are in there. How can you first see all of the access grades that actually got pushed back to your kids? So, first, I want to show you how to locate those grades. Then we'll look at the individual student records to see how can we edit them individually and how can we edit them in mass. Because if you're a district that only has 2 or 3 kids taking access, this might be something you just want to do on the individual student record. But if you're the Mobile, the Jefferson County, the huge districts that have hundreds of kids taking it, you're probably going to want to make some of these updates in mass, and Power School will most definitely allow you to do that. So let's start off with how do you find all of the access grades that were put into your district. So if you've read any of the emails that I've been sending out on Monday mornings or a lot of the updates that I've been emailing out, one of the things I've been hitting on a lot lately are enterprise reports, because those are really going to be what we use to start drilling into our data. So I'm going to show you an enterprise report that you may or may not see. If you don't see it, then you're just going to need to request that your tech person add this one in for you. It's actually one that's native from Power School, so all they have to do is publish it. But it will allow you to go grab all of those and see how many access grades were actually stored in your school or in your district, depending on where you run this at. So I'm actually going to flip over to the high school in my little sandbox right here. All right, so enterprise reporting. It is located under system reports, and you have a tab called enterprise reporting. Now, for any of my tech people that are on this call, if you do not see the report that I'm going to use here in a minute, here's where you will find it. If you hit your add button, it's going to be in this list that all you have to do is I'd probably put it under grades and then hit publish, and that'll make it pop up under here. But it's an older version of the current historical grades report. It's this stored grades report right here. So if you actually already have stored grades report in your list, then you're one step ahead. But if not, you just need to get your tech person to click that add button and then grab that report and publish it for you. So I'm going to click into the stored grades report. Now, I will go and tell you, this is pulling all the stored grades on all your kids from any years back. So we've got to do some filtering here. So the first thing that I want to filter on, well, first I've got to add some columns to get the filters in there. So the first thing I'm going to do is hit select columns. And I'm going to scroll down through this list right here and grab 2 things from the school. I want school year, and if you hit control, you can grab school name both at one time. And I'm going to hit this right arrow to say, hey, Power School, I want you to add these 2 columns to this report. And I'm going to hit apply. Oh, it's not in the list to do the drop down? I will export it out and put it on that spreadsheet so that y'all can install it. Thank you for my IT people who just pointed that out. They might have already taken it out or unpublished it. So I can give it to you to publish. I'll email y'all those directions. So once you get the report in, the first thing you want to do is you want to add in this school year and this school name. So we want to look at just this year, what we've just done. So I'm going to click on school year, and I'm going to scroll down and click on 2022, because you're always going to do these kind of moment in time. All right, inside of there, now what I would want to do, and here's the thing, every district pretty much has one access support center that they're assigned to. So you're going to know what yours is. So like as you see right here, just from these 10 records of the 9,000 that's got pulled up, my access center is going to be Troy. So what I want to do is I want to filter for the school name on that record to be from the access center and not the ones that you've awarded from your school. So I'm actually going to, if I click on school name, I'm going to filter it and just say, okay, just show me those in Troy. So if you wanted to see all of the grades that were pushed back from access, here is how I can see it. I know this is kind of small, but can y'all see right here on my screen? It says 1 through 10 of 99 records. So that tells me 99 students at my high school received an access grade. If you want to print these out to have for some kind of reference or anything like that, you see this actions up here. If you go to download, you can print out a CSV or a PDF of this if you wanted it for reference. If you know these are the students you need to work with, because that's what we've got to do now. When Access pushes these grades back, we all know Access does not award credit, and it might be that you have to adjust GPA values, and we can sometimes have issues with ID numbers, like the term ID on them, because typically Access uses way more terms than we do in our little pyramid of our years and terms setup. So you can actually see this button up here in the top right, set current selection. These are the kids you now need to work with. So I'm going to click set current selection, set the selection. It says now it's been set in PowerSchool. So I'm going to click back over here into the SIS. And sure enough, there are my 99 students. So if I click into these student records, I'm all going to see their access grades that have been pushed in. If you want to see some other things about them, like in this case, I know that the store code that Access used is an S1. So this year, there's a couple of things that Access is doing differently than last year that are very important to take note of. One are the course numbers they're using. They're actually using the course numbers that are in our state-defined course catalog, which means you will be able to edit these because they match a course that you have established in your district office. One of the problems that we had last year is that when they used the H1 and the H2, that didn't match a course number you had. So for everybody who was trying to exclude them from transcripts, it wouldn't let you because it didn't identify that course at district office. Now it will. The second thing to denote is they're using basically 3 store codes, a S1, an S2, and an F1. And what they're going to do is they're going to push the halfway mark at the course, the end of the second half of the course, and then an overall course average, because throughout the state, it is a mixture of districts who either for a course want to get 2 half credits to them or to give them just 1 whole credit when they complete the course. You're going to see all 3 grades come to you, and you'll need to decide whether you act upon them or not. So for example, right here, Isaac Aaron, this is all fake data, by the way, just I've imported this in to make it simulate access. So Isaac here has a S1 grade for anatomy and physiology. So he's taken this class. So he's made an 83. So this is a half of the class. He's got to finish the other half of the class. So what I have to decide is, in my district, do I need to act on this S1 grade, or do I just need to leave it there and wait until he finishes the class and Access stores the F1 grade? If I need to act on this grade, then I'll need to come in here and award the half credit. If I don't need to act on this grade, then I don't do anything. I just let that grade sit there from Access because it's got no credit awarded to it. It's not counting in GPA. It's not doing anything. It's just sitting there until you give those credits to dictate that it does something. So if I don't need to do anything, I'll just wait until, let's say, December, because maybe this is like a first semester term block class, let's say. I will then in December, when Access stores the S2 and the F1, I'll grab the F1 grade that they give us, and I'll award a whole 1 credit to that and not award anything to these 2 semesters. But if I am the district that needs the 2 semesters, then I'll put a half credit here. And then when December rolls around, I'll give the other half credit on S2, and I won't put anything for the F1 grade that you'll get. So you're going to be given the tray of both possibilities, and you'll decide which one of those you want to be your grade for your transcripts, for your GPA values, and for everything else. And with them using S1s and S2s, it's going to pull what's coded to the transcript. So we get a lot of that discombobulation that we had last year out of the picture here. So let's say that we have identified these kids and we do now know who we need to make changes on. So let's pretend I am a district that awards the half credit now here, and then I'll award the other half in December. So you have a couple of options. So remember how I said that in this, you can either decide to do this individually, one student at a time. So I can click on each one of these names and go through and handle them, or I can do them in mass through DDA. So I'm going to click on Isaac right here, and I'm going to go to his transfer info. Not transfer info. Whew, sorry, y'all. Historical grades. So I can see, or actually, I don't want to use Isaac. I want to use him for something else. I want to go look at Zykeria Adams. I've kind of mocked her up for something. So let's go to Zykeria. Okay, so here's like typical. Oh, and the other question that we get a lot is Access ever going to store grades in time for them to actually print on my report cards when I send them out to the rest of the students in the school? I'm going to tell you guys that will probably not ever happen because they have modifications they have to do, and not modifications, but they have to make adjustments for some students who have IEPs to give them more time to finish grades. So it's typically always going to be after your traditional reporting cycle before they're going to actually store those grades. So I wouldn't get my hopes up on that ever aligning here. This is always going to be in kind of an after the fact. So in this situation right here is the 22-23 school year. You can see the Q1 grades that were stored traditionally on Zykeria from the classes that they were taking here at this high school. And then you see this one random S1, because actually in my district here, we don't use S1 as a bucket, which is completely okay, because if you don't use that bucket, you can change that in DDA and it will allow you to change it, and it will not override that anymore in that cross LEA nightly process. I'll tell you the 4 fields that you will not be able to change, but that is one you can change in case you do use buckets that are different than what Access is pushing to you. So if I'm a small enough district where all I need to do is click on the individual student, this is going to be an easy fix for me. I'm going to click into the 84, and here's where I will see the school that issued it was Troy, the Access Center. The term ID that they used is 3201. Now, you can decide if you need to put that in a different term ID, like if you want to back it up to 3200 just to show it as a 22-23 year and it not necessarily tag to a semester 1 class, you can absolutely do that. The other thing that you might see is that if it's in one of those like quarter terms that they use that's later in their pyramid, they actually might be using a 3207 right here, which you probably do not have set up in your district. And so it might display on this page a none. How many of you have seen the word none over here in the year term, or it print that in a transcript? If that happens, that means they used a term ID that's outside of your pyramid. All you have to do is edit it right here to match it back up to one that you do use, and it will correct that piece for you. All right, the other thing that you will notice, and yes, we are working with PowerSchool to fix that, but do you see right here what grade level it has for the Access stored grade? It says grade 10. So there is a current issue that everyone in PowerSchool and Access is aware of, that if a student ever enters into Access, that cross LEA feature doesn't update the demographic parts of the student record. So let's pretend that Zykeria took an Access class last year in 10th grade. So when Access logs in and looks at Zykeria, they never see this student as an 11th grade student. So when they stored grade, it's stored with last year's grade level and not this year's. For right now, until they fix that one piece, that's going to be one of the things that you are probably going to have to update on these records. So if I were going to fix this record, if I were a counselor, registrar, whoever it is that's in charge of this, and I'm doing this one at a time, I would click into this record. I would say, okay, I know that the grade year is wrong because they've got to fix that bug. So that needs to say grade 11 because they are grade 11. Notice the course number, the name, and the teacher. Okay, I'm going to tell you, these 3 fields right here, guys, are locked. And when I say locked, it doesn't mean you can't edit it. I could sit here and type stuff on here. What's going to happen is if you try to change anything on those 3 fields and save it, When Cross LEA updates at night, it's going to change those 3 fields back to what they were from Access. You are not going to be allowed to change the course number, the course name, or the teacher name to try to say it's a different class than what the kid actually took. The rest of these fields you can change, and it will allow the changes to stay, but those 3 fields you will not be able to change. The grade. Sometimes you do need to change the grade if you're on a different grade scale. Like, how many of you actually use alpha grades right here instead of the numeric grades? If you are an alpha district, then you would want to come in here and change that to a B so that it would align for things for your honor roll reports, for your GPA reports, and things such as that. So you'll know if your district needs to make that change or not. I'm actually going to leave it an 84. The GPA points. Now, they're grading on like a 100-point grade scale, so the GPA points are going to align to the 4, 3, 2, and 1 that you typically see. But if you're a district where your GPA scale is different on points based on the numbers, like instead of a 90 to a 100 getting a 4, maybe a 95 to a 100 gets a 4, and a 90 to a 95 gets a 3.7 or something. If you do something unique like that, then you can come in here and update the GPA points to align to your district's policy on GPA points. If this is a class that your district has decided gets added value, it's a weighted class in your district, because Access can't determine whether it's weighted or not, because that's all different based on different board policies. Let's pretend algebra with finance is an advanced class, and so anybody who takes this gets a 0.5 added value, then you would need to come in here and add that added value in here. And then if this is the class that you would award the credit to, so remember, if it's not the one, you don't have to do any of this, you just let it be in there and be. But in this case, if I was awarding the half a credit, you have to remember to update it in both of these fields for earned credit and potential credit for it to calculate correctly toward graduation and toward your GPA. And then you can sit here and decide whether they need to be included or excluded in those calculations. Now, one very unique thing that Access did, and I don't know how many of you paid attention to this, in the teacher comment area, because notice there's nowhere in the course number anymore for you to identify, was this a first half of a course or a second half of a course or anything such as that. They are now putting the nomenclature down here to let you know that this was a first quarter half credit class. That, now I'm going to tell you, I mass updated some of these, so they probably don't match with what they should say, but yours that got written in, I know match perfectly. I just kind of had to spin these up on the fly. So this probably should say a first quarter, whole credit semester class or things such as that. So this is your way as a counselor to know what part of the class was taken, so that if they only needed half of the class because they already had a half credit somewhere with you, that's the part that they're finishing. So if you were doing manual updates, that's all you would need to do to the student record. You would take that Access class that they pushed into you, you would make these changes, and then you submit. And then, unlike last year, when you come in tomorrow, all of those changes will still be there, and there's no need for it to be twice in here like we had to deal with last year. So that's a win in our book. Now, all of those changes that were just made on that one individual student can be made in mass through DDA if you want to do that from the district level, or if you have somebody at the school level who has DDA access. So you would just need to filter for those students to know what to do with them. And you might have to break them up in pods, because maybe there are, well, typically for your school, you're either all a school that awards the whole credit at the end of the course, or your has and haves. But when it comes to like the GPA points and things such as that, you might have to kind of break those up and say, all right, find everybody who had an A or a B. And remember that you can do those filterings one of two ways. You can actually do it here within this Stored Grades Enterprise report, making this current selection, and then once you go into DDE, get those students. So just to show you that, because remember I had 99 kids, for those of you who have the DDE access, when I go into System and into DDE, which is where I go to find, notice that I've got that student selection of 99 right here on this screen. So if I were to go in there and say, okay, I want to flip to the stored grades table, and I want to start doing some searching, the first thing I would do is search for term ID equals or actually I'm going to do greater than or equal to 3,200 to know I only do this year. And really, if you come down here and get school name, and let me come back here to just copy and paste this school name. You could get it off of that student record that we were just on. And I say, just search my stored grades table for this. There's my 99 records. So those are those 99 kids that I had pulled. So if in mass, I needed to award the half credit to all of these, for those of you who have DDA access, you know exactly how to do that. You would flip it to the DDA screen, you would modify, and you would update your potential credit hours. You would update your earned credit hours. If you needed to touch GPA, basically all of these fields that are right here, you would know what you would need to update according to your district policies. And if you have any questions about updating those, feel free to reach out and I can point you to which exact fields you would need to do. A lot of people want to come in and mass update that term ID number so that it aligns with a district. Like most everybody I've talked to is just going to flip them all to 3,200. So it just shows it's a course taken this year. It doesn't matter length of time because that's going to be controlled in the actual credits. But that right there is the simplistic piece of what we're going to do here. Yes, Quay, this is being recorded and going to be sent out after this so y'all can refer back and kind of talk if you need to talk with your counselors through that. So you have two ways of now updating these grades so that they will stick, and then you can have those to the transcript. So if you need to update the store code, the grade, all of that will happen. And just to show you, I have 3 pictures here that I want to show you where I mocked this up in pilot when we tested this fix for them to show you what would change. So here is an example of a cross LEA student that I did between 2 of our pilot districts. And this was, the entire grade, the entire thing was filled out from Power School. And I went in and I changed the course number, the course name, the percent, and I think that, I took off the credit type math. Okay, so before it was this, and this is what I changed it to. So I wanted to test to make sure that what was supposed to be locked was locked and what was supposed to be open stayed open for you. So according to the rules of Power School, as long as I'm not touching the course number, the course name, or the teacher name, all of my changes should stay. So by me changing these things right here, so there were 6 things I changed, these 2 were on the illegal list of things to change. So I waited overnight to see if the system process would change them back. And up here, you'll see, sure enough, they did. I tried to make this chemistry honors class in English grade 12, and Power School went, nope, that is that is a chemistry honors class. And so it flipped it back to that. So it did keep all of the changes down here and did not overwrite anything. In this next screenshot, kind of the same thing me testing here, I took this grade that was passed back through Cross LEA. I changed the course name, the teacher name, and I checked to exclude these from graduation and grade, just testing the buttons, y'all. And so again, according to the rules, I knew that it should write back the course name and the teacher name. And sure enough, the changes where it was chemistry honors, I tried to make it just chemistry, and I tried to change the teacher from Baker to Royster, and it said nope, and it changed them right back to the original ones that had come in from Access. And then on the third one right here, I actually only changed things that I was allowed to change to make sure that it would not try to do anything to this record afterward. And sure enough, on this record that passed back from Cross LEA, I changed the grade from a 72C to just a 72, the GPA points and the earning potential. And notice there was not a record of system process change because there was nothing Power School had to say, no, you couldn't do that, Stacy. And so we were all good. So this has been tested, and I'm very thankful to see that. Somebody did just ask a question that I do want to show in here, and they said, what if we had filler classes on our schedules? What do we need to do with those? So let me go back to the Adams student. Because what I've seen, and it was kind of what triggered that email on Monday with people saying that null grades had been posted in there. So if you're using a filler class, so let's pretend that I actually put an Algebra with Finance class on this student's schedule. Well, when you stored grades, did it still store null grades for those because teachers didn't enter anything? Probably so, unless you marked it to not store grades for those courses, which means you probably had an 84 right into an S1 column here and then dashes throughout here. My advice to you is if you do end up storing those, just go in and delete those filler classes off the historical grades record, because depending on if the term ID that Access actually used by happenstance matches the term ID you actually scheduled that filler course in, it'll actually bring them all to one line right here. If those term IDs do not match up, you end up having two of them, one on one line and one on the other. And if that's the case, just go delete that one line that was the filler class out of the historical grades altogether. Like, don't try to delete Access because it is going to come back at night, but delete your filler one out. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's kind of it, top to bottom, of what you'll have to do to the Access grades this year. Much cleaner, much more effective. You can actually work with the grades that Access pushed in so that you don't have to do all that extra. So, are there any questions that I can answer? Let's see in the chat. Had someone say, if you don't teach the course on your campus, then the course number is not in your school and you are given the error. So yes, that is correct. If let's pretend that I don't have algebra or finance that we offer here. In order to edit any of these grades, you have to have that established as a course that you are actually offering in your district. And I know a lot of us did not think to put courses that are Access courses as courses that are available, but you really should have those activated. You don't have to have them assigned to a school, but they do need to be activated so you'll be able to work on these. So you will need to add those to the course catalog at district office if you don't personally have a teacher on site teaching them in your district right now. Melanie said, my user role is not granted access. So Melanie, you'll need to work with your district power school coordinator to get the right permissions assigned for you to do what you'll need to do in here. And Nikki said, so credit type can be changed, correct? Yes, it sure can. As long as it's not that school, well, you can't change the school name because it's in there. I think that's hard coded in there. But the course name, course number, and teacher name, all the rest of it, yes. If you need to adjust it because some of y'all put a local credit type in there or things such as that, you absolutely can do that. And yes, this is being recorded and I will send it out at the end of this. Let's see. Misty says, will this ever roll over accurate or we always have to fix them? I don't know what you mean by rollover accurate, Misty, because they do roll over accurately from what Access has. The issue with them is that Access can't conform to all the different district policies when it comes to how credit is awarded and how GPA value is awarded. So that has to be issued at the individual district level. So it's not really fixing them. It's just you entering in the data that's specific to your district. Remember back in I-Now, you had to enter every bit of it in. Now all you have to do is enter in those pieces and the grades and all that other information is here for you. I can still change in DDA if they are not active courses in my course catalog, right? Quite possibly, Chesley. I have to test that real quick, but I do believe you can. Ben, do you have a guide for how to clean up the additional duplicate grade listings we imported last year? I knew somebody was going to ask that. I was trying to skirt it, Ben. Okay, so to be open and honest, and yes, I do know that this is being recorded. So here's the thing about those. Yes, the overwrite process works for those as well. So if you wanted to go take those duplicated entries out and fix those, you could. However, here's the caveat, and it goes back to that course number's got to be in your district. Do you want to go through the effort of adding all of those courses that were taught through Access as an H1, H2 course at your district office so you will be able to make those changes? I don't know if that's the case, Ben. If you want to attempt to do that to see if you can change it or see if you can change them through DDA so that it will hold. I know they will hold now. It's not going to overwrite that. So this process change that they did will actually work for this year's grades and last year's grades. And if you can get all of those grades fixed through either DDA or by creating that course at the district level, you could then get rid of that duplicated course that you had to create last year. I know I'm asking you to undo something that you did, but that was the only thing that we could do last year to get the grades the way that you needed them in there. We knew it was a one-time pain that we just had to grow through. And so this year and moving forward, we're good, but you'll have to make that decision on last year's. Scott, will final grades for half credit courses be stored as S1 or F1? So Scott, it's going to come in from Access as an S1 and an S2 for those, but if you need to flip them for your district to say F1 and F2, that can be done in DDA. And so I know a lot of districts will probably be flipping store codes to make them match what you're doing in your district. Chesley says, if last year is acceptable, then we do not have to do anything for last year. Correct? Yes, Chesley. If you're just happy with that 1 year that those 2 entries are showing, or you've gotten them fixed, you are completely good to just start. Courtney asked, what are filler classes? So, Courtney, some districts will actually create like a placeholder class in the kids' schedule instead of actually putting the access class that they're taking, or they'll put the actual access class that they're taking in there just so that they have an accountability measure of where the kid is. I've seen it done a myriad of ways. Some people do there's a scheduler filler course code out there, and some people will put just access class and attach that to the kid's schedule to know they're in access classes, but they don't actually put, let's say, algebra with finance, because they know when the grade stores, it's going to store with the exact name, and they don't want it showing twice on there. So some people will do that, so it just cleans up the data on them. Completely up to the districts if they want to do it. Nicole says, I did not have the store grades report. It will be opened up again, correct? Yeah, y'all let me figure out, because I could have swore that was a native. Let's check something right quick. For my tech people on here, try this. If you go to system reports and enterprise reporting, because I believe the stored grades report is an older version of this one. So I'm wondering if it's an unpublished one. I can actually pull this one out of mine, and y'all, I will just stick it on. Y'all know the let me see if I can just go straight to it. Reports links. I thought it would. Let's just go to Drive. Y'all hang on 1 second. All right, Drive. So y'all know I have this spreadsheet of all the enterprise reports that we put out there for tech and administrators to put in here. I don't think I have stored grades. After we get off of this call, I will add that stored grades report to this so that it can. Oh, Jennifer said she found it, and it's called student grades. So do y'all have a report called student grades in your system? Because if you have student grades, it might be the same thing, and you just need to do those filters. Oh, perfect. Okay. That's weird that mine's called one thing and y'all's is called something else, but great. I'm glad to hear that. So student grades is the report, and all you'll need to do is you got to go to the actions, add columns, add in the school year, school name, and then do your 2 filters for this year. And that's what you will make sure. Can I share the link to the spreadsheet? Absolutely. Let me throw this in the chat. Copy link. If it'll throw it in the chat. There you go. And let me throw another link in there that if you've not seen this yet will be a huge help to you. So I have a website that I have been putting all of this information on. So since I have you in here, I'm going to share it. That site right there that I just did, it's an Alabama Home Edition. That actually takes you to the whole enterprise reports page. But if you click in the link in the top left, it'll take you to the home screen. So if you have questions about grading, anything, attendance, career tech, I'm putting all of my documentation out there on that website. You can use it. And all of this is located on there. With something else. I just completely lost my train of thought, y'all. It is late in the day. But keep an eye on it because I do update that site regularly. Angie says, can I go over again how to look up the access grades? So what I did is I came in here. So let me click out of that enterprise report. I came in here to the stored grades and had to do 2 things first. I had to come to actions and select columns. And there's 2 fields that I need. I need this school year and school name. So I hit control. I'm hitting control while I click on these. And I hit to move it over, and I hit apply because I'm basically adding it to this list. Then I filter because I don't care about all these past school years. And that's the thing about enterprise reports. They're historical, so it's going to pull everything. So I'm going to scroll down and just look at 2022. And then for school name, I only want to look at my support center. Okay? And that now I have filtered down to just that list of kids that I know should work. If you're in a small enough district that you know the 5 or 6 or 10 or 20 kids that had access, you might not even have to do this. You could probably go to your kids and look at them automatically. But this is a way that if you have hundreds of kids in your school or system, that you can find them very quickly, who was added in there, because the school name should be pushed in. Did you notice when I was on Zacaria's record? Let me go back into here. That when I clicked into here, you see how it says that school right there? That's the school name field that we pulled in right here. Okay. All right, I'm going to stop the recording so it can start rendering.